Christmas dinner was already tense when it happened. The turkey sat half-carved on the table, steam rising into the warm glow of the chandelier. Everyone leaned back in their chairs, full and satisfied, waiting for the traditional speeches to begin. My mother, Patricia, stood first. She smoothed her red sweater and smiled at the room like she was about to deliver good news. Her eyes landed on my younger brother Lucas, and her face lit up. "Lucas has been such a blessing this year," she said, her voice thick with pride. "He's the one who never disappoints, always reliable, always thoughtful." Lucas shifted uncomfortably in his seat but smiled anyway. Everyone clapped politely. Then Patricia turned to me. Her smile softened, became almost sweet. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small wrapped box. Gold paper. Red ribbon. She placed it in my hands. "For you, Elise," she whispered. I stared at the box, confused. My chest felt tight. Before I could say thank you, Patricia moved on, talking about dessert, about next year's plans. But a few minutes later, while everyone was distracted, her hand slipped under the table. Her fingers curled around the box. She slid it back out of my hands, quietly, like it never happened. Froze. My stomach dropped. I looked around the table, trying to catch someone's eye. Anyone. But no one was looking at me. They were laughing at something Lucas said. Patricia was laughing too, her face warm and relaxed. She acted like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just taken the gift back from my hands. I forced a smile. My face felt stiff, like a mask I couldn't take off. Inside something burned. Not anger, at least not yet. It was deeper than that. It was the feeling of being erased in real time. Of being treated like I didn't matter enough to notice. Lucas glanced at me for a second, then looked away fast. His jaw was tight. He knew. He had to know. Patricia kept talking, her voice light and cheerful. She poured herself more wine. She touched Lucas's shoulder as she walked past him. She didn't look at me once. I sat there, hands empty, chest tight, wondering if I'd imagined it. But I knew I hadn't. The box was real. The moment was real. And so was the humiliation settling into my bones like ice water. This wasn't an accident. Felt rehearsed, practiced, like she'd done it before. I got up to clear the plates. My hands shook as I stacked them. No one offered to help. They never did. I was always the one who cleaned up, who stayed quiet, who made things easier for everyone else. That was my role. As I scraped leftover mashed potatoes into the trash, memories flooded back. Birthdays where my cake was smaller. Graduations where Patricia forgot to take photos. Achievements I celebrated alone because she was too busy with Lucas. I'd always told myself it wasn't personal, that she loved us both, that I was just being sensitive. But standing there in the kitchen, hands gripping the edge of the sink, I finally saw the pattern. Patricia's cruelty wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was surgical. Small cuts, over and over, until you bled out without realizing it. I heard her laugh from the dining room, high and bright, like she was having the time of her life. Then I heard something else. A whisper. Low and urgent. I stepped closer to the doorway, hidden by the shadow of the wall. Patricia was leaning toward Lucas, her hand on his arm. "Don't worry," she said quietly. "Everything important is already taken care of." Lucas nodded, but he didn't look proud. He looked nervous. I stayed frozen behind the wall, barely breathing. Patricia's voice dropped even lower. "She doesn't need to know the details," she said. "It's better this way. Cleaner." Lucas shifted in his seat. "But what if she asks?" "She won't," Patricia cut him off. Her tone was sharp now. Confident. "Elise doesn't ask questions. She never has." My heart pounded. What were they talking about? Money. Inheritance. Something else. Patricia patted Lucas's hand and stood up. "Just trust me. I've been handling this for years." I stepped back into the kitchen before she could see me. My mind raced. This wasn't just about favoritism anymore. This was bigger. Something had been happening behind my back for years, and I'd been too busy trying to keep the peace to notice. Heard footsteps. Patricia walked into the kitchen, still smiling. She started wrapping leftovers in foil, humming softly. Need help? Asked my voice steady. She glanced at me, surprised. Oh no, honey. You've done enough. Go relax. But her eyes weren't warm. They were watching me, testing me, waiting to see if I'd say something about the gift. About what I'd heard. I didn't. That night, after everyone went to bed, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about the box. The way Patricia's fingers had curled around it. The way she'd smiled at me right before taking it back. I got up and went downstairs. The house was dark and quiet. I found the trash bin in the kitchen and dug through it until I found the torn wrapping paper. Gold foil. Red ribbon. I smoothed it out on the counter. There was something written on the inside. A receipt taped to the wrapping. My hands trembled as I pulled it off. It was from a jewelry store. Dated 3 weeks ago. And at the top, in Patricia's handwriting, was my name. Elise. But it was crossed out. A single black line through it. And below it, in smaller letters, she'd written, Lucas, backup. I stared at it until my eyes blurred. The gift had been for me. Originally. But Patricia had changed her mind. And instead of just not giving it to me, she'd made a show of it. She'd wanted me to see it. To feel like I was worth something. And then she'd taken it back. Why? What was the point? I folded the receipt and slipped it into my pocket. The next morning, Patricia found me in the guest room. I was folding blankets, trying to look busy. She knocked lightly on the doorframe, her face soft and concerned. Elise, honey, she said gently. I wanted to apologize about last night. I stopped folding. Apologize. She stepped inside, wringing her hands. The gift. I was so confused and stressed with all the planning. I meant to give it to Lucas, but I accidentally handed it to you first. I'm sorry if that seemed strange. Her voice was sweet, apologetic, but her eyes weren't. They were sharp, watching, testing. She was waiting to see if I'd believe her, if I'd accept the explanation and move on like I always did. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I smiled. It's okay, Mom, I said. I understand. Her shoulders relaxed. She smiled back, relieved. I knew you would. You're always so understanding. She turned to leave, but I spoke again. Mom. I paused. Why was my name on the receipt? Her smile froze. Just for a second. Then she laughed, light and dismissive. What receipt, honey? I didn't answer. I just stared at her. She left without another word. Later that afternoon, Lucas found me outside. I was sitting on the porch steps, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. He sat down next to me, hands shoved in his pockets. She told you it was a mistake, didn't she? He said quietly. He nodded. He sighed. It wasn't. I turned to look at him. His face was pale, tired. The gift wasn't small, Elise, he said. It was symbolic. Mom wanted to give you something that looked meaningful in front of everyone. But she panicked when you reacted differently than she expected. Differently how? You didn't look grateful, he said. You looked confused. And that scared her. I frowned. Why would that scare her? Lucas hesitated. Then he looked at me, his eyes serious. Because Mom thinks you don't know anything, he said. And she needs to keep it that way. My stomach twisted. Know what? But Lucas stood up, shaking his head. I can't tell you. Not yet. Just be careful, okay? He walked away before I could stop him. I couldn't let it go. That night I searched the guest room. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew something was hidden. Something Patricia didn't want me to find. Checked the drawers, closet, under the bed. Nothing. Then I noticed the old filing cabinet in the corner. It was dusty, like no one had touched it in years. I pulled open the bottom drawer. Inside was a folder. The label on the front said estate planning, private. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside were insurance papers, legal documents, and handwritten notes in Patricia's sharp, slanted handwriting. I scanned through them, my heart racing. There were promises, written agreements about inheritance, about who would get what when Patricia passed away. Lucas's name was everywhere, highlighted, circled, underlined, and then I saw my name, once, in the margin of a document dated 5 years ago. It was crossed out, not erased, crossed out, like an afterthought, like I'd been considered and then dismissed. I sat on the floor, the papers spread around me, and realized the truth. Patricia hadn't just favored Lucas. She'd been systematically erasing me from the family's future. And she'd been doing it for years. I sat there for a long time, staring at the papers. My mind replayed every conversation, every moment where Patricia had called me independent, strong, capable. She'd always said it like it was a compliment. But now I understood. She'd been setting me up. She'd spent years making me believe I didn't need help, that I was fine on my own, that I was too proud to ask for anything. And because I believed it, I never questioned what I wasn't getting. Lucas got the praise, the attention, the promises. I got the label of being low maintenance. Patricia hadn't planned to give me less. She'd planned to give me nothing. And she'd counted on me being too polite, too understanding, too nice to ever push back. But something had shifted. The gift, the crossed-out receipt, the whispered conversation. She was scared I was starting to notice. I closed the folder carefully. I didn't put it back. I took photos of every page with my phone. Then I slipped the folder back into the drawer exactly as I'd found it. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to cry or yell or demand answers. I was going to do something far more dangerous. I was going to stay calm, observe, and take back what I'd been denied. Over the next few days I played my role perfectly. I smiled at breakfast. I asked Patricia about her plans. I complimented Lucas. I acted like nothing had changed. Patricia relaxed. She laughed more. She stopped watching me so closely. Lucas, though, looked uneasy. He'd catch me staring at nothing, and his face would tighten with worry. But he didn't say anything. Neither did I. I spent my evenings going through the photos I'd taken. Made notes. I cross-referenced dates. Found inconsistencies. Promises Patricia had made to me years ago that never materialized. Money that was supposed to be split equally but wasn't. She'd been careful, but not careful enough. I also started reaching out. I contacted old family friends. I asked casual questions about estate planning, about wills, about what was normal. I didn't mention Patricia. I just gathered information. And then I scheduled a meeting. One Patricia didn't know about. Called a lawyer. The appointment was set for the following week. I didn't tell anyone. Patricia thought she was winning. She thought I was back to being the easy daughter. The one who didn't ask questions. But I wasn't easy anymore. I was awake. The lawyer's office was small and quiet. I sat across from her, a woman named Victoria Brennan, and slid the folder across the desk. She opened it, flipping through the pages slowly. Her face stayed neutral, but I saw her jaw tighten. After a long silence, she looked up at me. "This is not how this should look," she said carefully. "What do you mean?" She tapped one of the documents. "These estate notes suggest promises were made to you. Verbal agreements, at minimum. But nothing here is legally binding. And the way your name has been removed from certain sections." She paused. "It suggests intentional exclusion." My chest felt tight. "Is that legal?" "Technically, yes," she said. "Unless you can prove coercion or undue influence. But morally, this is a mess." She closed the folder. "Your mother has been very deliberate. She's positioned your brother as the primary beneficiary while painting you as someone who doesn't need support. So there's nothing I can do." Victoria leaned back in her chair. "I didn't say that. But you need to be strategic. If you confront her now, she'll double down. You need documentation. Witnesses. A paper trail that proves what she promised versus what she's actually doing." I nodded slowly. "I can get that." "Good," Victoria said. Because if you want to challenge this, you'll need to be prepared. Your mother isn't going to make this easy. I left the office with a plan. 2 weeks later, Patricia called a family meeting. She announced it over the phone, her voice bright and confident. I think it's time we all sit down and talk about the future, she said. Estate planning. Responsibilities. I want everyone on the same page. I agreed immediately. Lucas sounded hesitant but said yes. The meeting was set for the following Sunday. When I arrived, Patricia had everything prepared. She'd printed documents, made notes. She sat at the head of the table like she was running a board meeting. Lucas sat to her right, looking uncomfortable. I sat across from him. Patricia smiled warmly at both of us. I wanted to do this while we're all here. No surprises. Just clarity. She started explaining her plans. Lucas would inherit the house. He'd manage the family accounts. He'd be the executor of her will. And Elise, she said, turning to me, you've always been so independent, so strong. You don't need the same kind of support Lucas does. I'm so proud of you for that. Everyone nodded. Sounded reasonable. Generous even. But I noticed something. Patricia had notes in front of her. Printed pages. Rehearsed talking points. I reached into my bag and pulled out my own folder. Patricia's smile faltered. Just for a second. I have some questions, I said calmly. Patricia's smile returned, but it was tighter now. Of course, honey. That's why we're here. I opened my folder and pulled out the first document. This is a letter you wrote me 6 years ago. You promised that when you sold the cabin, the proceeds would be split equally between Lucas and me. Patricia blinked. I don't remember. The cabin sold 3 years ago, I continued. For $240,000. Lucas received his half. I didn't. The room went silent. Patricia laughed lightly. Elise, you were going through a rough time back then. I didn't want to burden you with financial decisions. So you made the decision for me? Her smile wavered. I thought I was helping. I pulled out another document. This one is from the estate planning folder. It shows my name listed as a co-beneficiary. But in the updated version, my name is crossed out. Lucas looked at Patricia, confused. Mom, you said. Lucas, not now, Patricia snapped. But it was too late. The room had shifted. Patricia's confidence cracked. She tried to recover. Elise, I understand you're upset, but you're twisting things. I'm not twisting anything, I said quietly. I'm just asking you to explain. She couldn't. And everyone saw it. Patricia's face flushed. She shuffled her papers, trying to find her talking points again. But she was rattled now. Defensive. You've always been difficult, she said suddenly. Her voice was sharper, colder. You overanalyze everything. You can't just trust. I trusted you for years, I said. And you erased me. That's not, she stopped herself, took a breath, forced a smile. You're being dramatic. But Lucas was staring at her now, his face pale. Mom, you told me Elise didn't want the cabin money. You said she refused it. She did, Patricia said quickly. Too quickly. I never refused it, I said, looking at Lucas. She never asked me. Patricia stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. I've spent my entire life providing for both of you, and this is how you repay me. But no one was listening to her anymore. Lucas looked at me, then back at Patricia. You lied to me, he said quietly. Lucas, you told me Elise didn't care about any of this, that she was too proud to take help. You made me feel guilty for accepting things she supposedly didn't want. Patricia's mask cracked. Just for a second. Her face twisted with something cold, something mean. And then it was gone, replaced by tears. I was trying to protect you both, she whispered. But no one believed her anymore. The meeting ended in silence. Patricia left the room without another word. Lucas stayed behind, staring at the table. I didn't know, he said finally. His voice was hollow. I swear, Elise. I didn't know she was lying. I believe you, I said. He looked up at me, his eyes red. What do we do now? You don't have to do anything, I said. This isn't your fight. But Lucas shook his head. Yes, it is. I've been part of this for years without realizing it. She used me. He stood up, his hands shaking. I'm going to talk to her. Lucas. I need to, he said. I need to know the truth. He left before I could stop him. I didn't hear from Lucas for 2 days. Then late one night he called me. She admitted it, he said. His voice was flat, exhausted. Admitted what? Everything. Cabin money. The estate planning. She said she did it because she thought you didn't need it. That you'd be fine without her help. Closed my eyes. And you? She said I needed her. That I'd fall apart without support. That she was protecting me. Lucas. She wasn't protecting me, Elise, he said, his voice breaking. She was controlling me. She made me dependent on her. And she made you believe you didn't deserve anything. He took a shaky breath. I told her I was done. That I didn't want the house or the money if it meant being part of this. What did she say? She cried. She said I was abandoning her. That I was ungrateful. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be, Lucas said. You were right to push back. I should have seen it years ago. We stayed on the phone for a long time. Not talking. Just breathing. Patricia tried to call me multiple times over the next week. I didn't answer. She left voicemails. Long, rambling messages where she swung between anger and guilt. She said I was tearing the family apart. That I was selfish. That I didn't understand how hard she'd worked. But she never apologized. I didn't respond. Instead, I did something else. I sent an email. It went to 3 people. My aunt, my uncle, and my grandmother. People Patricia relied on for validation. For support. For control. The email was short. Professional. I attached the documents. The letters. The crossed-out estate notes. The proof. I didn't editorialize. I didn't plead my case. I just let the facts speak for themselves. Within an hour, Patricia's phone started ringing. The fallout was swift. My grandmother called Patricia and demanded an explanation. My aunt stopped responding to her messages. My uncle, who'd always been Patricia's biggest supporter, sent me a private message saying he was sorry. That he hadn't known. Patricia tried to control the narrative. She called everyone spinning stories, making excuses. But the documents didn't lie. People started seeing her differently. Invitations stopped coming. Family events were quietly rescheduled without her. The silence she'd used as punishment for years became her reality. And Lucas made a decision of his own. He called a family meeting. This time without Patricia. He stood in front of everyone and said, I've benefited from favoritism my entire life. And I stayed quiet because it was easier. But I can't do that anymore. He apologized. Not just to me. To everyone. For playing along. For not speaking up. I'm stepping away from the pedestal, he said. I don't want it anymore. People were quiet. Uncomfortable. But they heard him. And I forgave him. Not because he'd earned it. But because he'd finally told the truth. A month later, a package arrived at my door. Wrapped in gold paper. Red ribbon. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside was the gift. The one Patricia had taken back. Necklace. Simple. Elegant. No note. No explanation. I held it in my hands, feeling its weight. And I realized something. It wasn't the gift that mattered. It never had been. It was what the gift represented. Control. Manipulation. The idea that Patricia could give and take as she pleased. But she couldn't anymore. I donated the necklace to a charity auction. Anonymously. And I cut contact with Patricia. Not in anger. Not with a dramatic speech. I just stopped responding. Stopped engaging. Stopped giving her access to my life. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. The next Christmas, I spent the holiday somewhere new. A small cabin in the mountains. Alone. Phone off. Cooked a simple meal. I read a book by the fire. I watched the snow fall outside the window. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness. Not triumph. Just peace. The kind that comes from finally being free. Patricia had spent my entire life making me feel like I wasn't enough. Like I needed to prove myself. Like I was only valuable if I stayed quiet and didn't make waves. But I didn't need her approval anymore. I didn't need her gifts. Her validation. Her version of love. I needed my own life. My own choices. My own freedom. And I finally had it. Lucas and I stayed in touch. Not often. But enough. He'd moved out of Patricia's house. Got his own place. Started therapy. I'm still figuring it out, he told me once. But I think I'm starting to understand who I am without her. I understood that. I was doing the same. We didn't talk about Patricia much. She'd become a shared ghost. Something we'd both survived. Something we were both moving past. It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't even a clean one. But it was ours. Sometimes I think about that Christmas dinner. About the moment Patricia took the gift back. At the time, it felt like the worst thing she'd ever done to me. But looking back, I realize it was the best. 'Cause it woke me up. It forced me to see what I'd been ignoring for years. It made me stop pretending. Stop accepting. Stop shrinking myself to make her comfortable. Patricia wanted to humiliate me. To remind me of my place. But instead she gave me something far more valuable. She gave me the push I needed to leave. I don't hate her. I don't wish her harm. But I also don't need her. And that's the freedom she never expected me to find. She built her power on making me feel small. On making me question myself. On making me believe I wasn't worth fighting for. But I was. Him. And I proved it. I've built a new life now. One that doesn't revolve around Patricia's approval. One where I make my own choices. Set my own boundaries. Define my own worth. It's not always easy. Some days I still hear her voice in my head. Still feel the weight of her expectations. But those days are getting fewer. And I'm getting stronger. The real gift was never the one she took back. It was the one I gave myself. The gift of walking away. Of choosing peace over performance. Of deciding that I deserved better. Patricia spent years trying to control me. Keep me small. To make me believe I didn't matter. But the moment she took that gift from my hands was the moment I finally took my life back. And I've never let go since.